Brandon Truax is a 40-year-old jet-setting beauty mogul. He was hospitalized again after interacting strangely with police near Whitehall. Some videos alleged massive financial fraud. Some seemed manic. Others seemed completely normal. By 2017, they had attracted a large investment from Estee Lauder company.
This is the final post of Deciem, which we will shut down all operations until further notice.
Truax was removed as CEO of Deciem. He was also told to stay away from Estee Lauder offices and its chairman, Leonard Lauder.
The company did $500 million in sales last year. No wonder New York-based beauty giant Estee Lauder wanted to take over Deciem.
I think they liked what they saw in terms of their creativity, their vision. They very much wanted us to retain our independence, which I think is music to our ears.
It's going to remain independent, and they're not going to control us, and the big corporate giant is not going to tell us what to do. It's all very cute to say, but it's not true.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my show. I wanted to make a video about this whole acquisition about Estee Lauder. I know I mentioned it briefly in my last video, which I watched back. It was a very depressing video. I hope that I don't bring that energy into this one. I want to talk about this acquisition because everyone who is talking about it isn't talking about how creepy it is. So Estee Lauder in June 2017 purchased a third of the shares of Deciem. Based on my research, it seems like the founder, Brandon Truax, welcomed that partnership and noted in some forums and letters that it wasn't about the money necessarily or the highest bidder, it was about the chemistry. Sorry, this is a new camera, by the way. How does it look? I can actually walk around now that now that most of the construction is done in the house. Just has to moving to do some painting, and then I should be almost good to go. Well, there's a lot of other stuff that needs to happen, but I'm not going to talk about that right now because this video is not about that. Right, so in June 2017, Estee Lauder purchased a third of the shares, 29% to be exact. At the time, they were having inventory issues, which I think they still are to this day, which is why some people think that this partnership and acquisition might actually help people actually acquire the product. Brandon stated that the contract was written in a way in which they could never fire him, they could never tell him what to do, and they could never dictate the direction of the company. So it seemed really clear from the get-go that he wanted to maintain autonomy and agency over Deciem, but the series of events that unfolded afterwards proved him wrong. So there was a bunch of controversy. I don't know if any of you care. Or former employees said that Brandon never touched alcohol before 2018, and then things just went awry in 2018 when he took over the company's Instagram and fired all the marketing people and even his co-founder Nicola, and things just spiraled down really fast. I get some people don't really want to dredge up the past and paint kind of a negative picture around Brandon because his death was so tragic, but I think it's important to know the context to understand why I think this is so creepy. Maybe less than a year and a half after the purchasing of these shares, Estee Lauder, filed a petition in court to get Brandon removed from the company completely with no ties left to it, and were successful because, he basically closed several of the North American stores down.
This is the final post of Deciem, which we will shut down all operations until further notice, which we have 2 months. Almost everyone at Deciem has been involved in a major criminal activity, which includes financial crimes and much other.
Estee Lauder got him removed from the company, and only a few months later, Brandon fell to his death.
Brandon Truax at 40 years old. We have 2 sources now confirming that he died.
Hi guys, it's Brandon. I've had a bit of alcohol to drink tonight. It's this one, it's Mezcal. Good evening, everyone. This is my home at 3203 33 Mill Street. And as I mentioned earlier, I had some tequila. It's the perfect Saturday night to spend on your own. When I got in the elevator, the elevators rang and the fire department and basically beep, beep, beep. Not worry, if they suspect something is strange, as the airport authorities say, It is suspicious. Tell someone. I love you.
There does not seem to be any explanation for this because people assert, including his partner, that it was definitely an accident, not a suicide. So basically, it's just really tragic given the series of events that unfolded from their purchasing a third of the shares to his letter of intent stating that he wants to maintain full ownership, to his removal from the company, to his death, and then the ultimate acquisition of the company by Estee Lauder, which is not something that would have happened under Brandon's leadership. So I gotta say, it's not surprising Estee Lauder is moving in this direction. It's probably was their intent from the get-go, and they just never really announced it explicitly in their meetings, and they clearly knew that there would be pushback from Brandon. Keep in mind, this is all speculation, and I could be wrong, but just based on the research that I've done, it's just all really eerily coming together that it was probably their plan, and Brandon was the major roadblock in terms of them getting there. This move of theirs to move into the more value-oriented product line and skincare follows just kind of a natural trajectory, especially during these times of COVID when consumers are becoming more price conscious, but also the market shifting more towards the preferences of younger consumers like Gen Z millennials who are more focused on value than they are about brand identity, luxury. Now, of course, Estee Lauder primarily has their hands in prestige or luxury products like La Mer and MAC, and I don't even remember what their other, Clinique. And the majority of these lines that still exist today and people actually purchase are not any of their companies, actually. They're mostly acquired, like MAC, Smashbox, Bobbi Brown. Those are all acquired companies. Clinique is one of the ones of their original findings that still exists today. Clinique, I believe, they created in 1968, and it was meant to be kind of more of a medical grade line of cosmetics for skincare. And so at the time, I'm sure that was pretty revolutionary, but I have no idea what that time looked like other than, the Civil Rights Act just having been passed 4 years prior. Wonder what Estee Lauder's stance on that was. I'm sure they don't want to talk about it. Yeah, and they're a New York-based company. I know MAC is a Toronto company. Deciem is a Toronto, Canada-based company. So I don't know if it's just like the proximity to Canada from New York, or if there is some other strange reason, or maybe just Canadians are more innovative. That's probably the case. Right, so Brandon was the only thing standing in their path, then he was no longer in their path. One could argue they pushed him out of their path, but I'm not here to make any accusations. It's just the way that things unfolded is highly, highly suspect.
Not worry, if they suspect something is strange, as the airport authorities say, it is suspicious, tell someone. I love you.
Based on the series of events in Brandon's tenure in the company prior to the partnership with Estee Lauder, it becomes really apparent that there is a strong relationship between that partnership and his ultimate demise. Deciem is a company with 7 lines currently. The name of the company, Deciem, is Latin for 10, and the original intent was to launch 10 different lines. The Ordinary actually was not even meant to be this cult favorite, high producing company. I feel like it was it was like an accident. Darn it, I didn't have de-warp off. I guess this will give us a chance to compare, maybe, to see what the difference is. Do you have a preference? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, I took a second to watch back the clip, so where was I now? I hope this isn't too disjointed and you can still follow my train of thought. Estee Lauder wants to get their hands in this prestige market, which is essentially a cross between value to the masses, which is a category in sales, and prestige or premium products. And together, those become Prestige. Estee Lauder needs to get their hands in this pot, basically, of Prestige products, as that seems to be the direction that companies are headed. They clearly had some foresight in this back in 2017, knowing that they might need to pivot. It does seem that their net sales have declined year over year. Last year, June 30th, 2020, the end of their fiscal year, they reported a net sales of $14.29 billion, which was a 4% decrease from the previous fiscal year. So it does seem that they understand that this market is changing. The market share is moving towards Gen Z and millennials, and these consumers, which includes me, sometimes they forget, because I don't like to be associated with them, are more value conscious and more influenced by influencers. And so these traditional advertising streams are no longer as effective, and the whole idea of brand identity and telling the story of luxury is maybe no longer relevant.
The story begins, as it always has, with the sea. Gently hand-harvested, the self-regenerating marine plant can grow up to 0.5 meter a day. Miracle broth. At the heart of every La Mer treatment today, miracle broth is as essential to creme de la mer as the sea itself.
So Deciem clearly seems to be kind of paving the path towards this more transparent business model where basically you're cutting out all the fluff and you're selling it for a more reasonable price, even though the profit margin is still quite wide.
So the ordinary price point, one was very transparent, but our margin, I mean the costs, our vitamin C product costs between 20 and 30 cents to make. So people just need to realize that it's still quite a big margin, it's very healthy.
Estee Lauder doesn't necessarily need the money. I mean, last year, 2028, Deciem reported $500 million of sales, which is a mere fraction of what Estee Lauder brings in from their other lines. But markets are forward-looking, and they clearly see some opportunity there. I think that The Ordinary did something really good. I mean, it came at a time where there was a lot of kind of movement towards direct-to-consumer, D2C action. I remember this one company called Public Goods, which was selling kind of like unbranded skincare, house cleaning, food type of items, household items. But really this like whole generic concept has been around for a long time. I mean, grocery stores have their generic brand, you know, like Kroger, Trader Joe's, that sell for a fraction of the price because they aren't paying so much money into advertising and whatnot. And Deciem, I don't really know what their advertising looks like, and if it's maybe just all social media. But anyway, perhaps that's how they keep their costs down. I think that we're also in a time where, at least in the skincare community, it seems that people are moving away from single ingredient products, and so that might have an interesting impact on Deciem. And The Ordinary in particular, as more people are kind of looking to simplify their skincare routine and use less products for more impact. So we'll see how that goes for Estee Lauder. Estee Lauder, like, what is it about them that was so, like, what put them above the rest to Brandon for him to ostensibly call them his forever home? That is a very questionable. I think Nicola, the current CEO, has stated that that was what Brandon originally asserted, but that seems at odds ends to what he asserted in his letter, which is still available on Deciem's website. The whole thing is weird. The whole thing is creepy. You know, this January was the 2-year anniversary since Brandon's death, and by June, which is when they plan on completing their purchase of the shares to get to 79%, will be 4 years since their original partnership where they purchased a third. So timeline wise, I mean, it's probably just in alignment with their fiscal year, as I just learned. their fiscal year ends on the end of June. But I wonder what their timeline would have looked like had Brandon still been here, involved in the company, and in charge of its direction. I really don't think it would be moving in this direction. Estee Lauder, I think one of the biggest criticisms is that Estee Lauder is not a cruelty-free company, but I think they are making some movement in that direction, probably because it's lucrative to be cruelty-free at this day and age, as consumers are becoming more compassionate. Estee Lauder is not a cruelty-free company, and they sell in markets that require animal testing, mostly in post-market testing, like China. Those regulations are changing. Estee Lauder does not seem, they're not at any point going to exit the Chinese market, but I think they are advocating for changes in regulations that would allow them to not have to do animal testing. But they do have certain brands like Smashbox, I believe, that they do not sell in China. So based on Nicola's announcements, she seems to be convinced that they have no intention in changing the direction of Deciem, the brand and the mission. And she might be right. There is no statement from Estee Lauder about this. But it would probably be in their best interest to not change anything about it, because they would just ruin it. And I think they probably know that. It's just like so creepy. The whole series of events, the whole tragedy of Brandon's death, the whole partnership that clearly led to his demise. It seems that people have just forgotten. Even though it garnered a lot of attention while it was happening, it's not something anyone talks about anymore. Maybe they've just done a really good job with their PR of just covering all of that up and letting it go. Everyone speaks of Brandon fondly from Estee Lauder's side and Deciem's side now, although there are some wild stories out there from former employees. We'll see where this goes. Anyway, let me know what your thoughts are on this matter. Leave it in the comments, of course. Like the video and subscribe. Tell a friend, I guess, if you want to. I'll see you next time.